Following their calamitous defeat at Minden, the French withdrew back to the river Rhine, pursued by the Allied army. At Dransfeld, leading elements of the Allied army caught up with the French rearguard, consisting of St Germain's corps. Retreating through a defile with wooded rolling hills on either side, the French deployed 2 brigades of regulars to hold the road through the defile, to protect the safe passage of the French baggage train. Among the trees, St Germain deployed light troops supported by cavalry to secure his flanks. As the French whipped on their draft animals toward the far end of the defile and safety, the French regulars of the Aquitaine and Auvergne brigades stood defiant as the Allied columns came on. Both sides' cannon were soon deployed and firing away, their loud reports echoing around the defile. As the wagons of the baggage train progressed with the desired urgency up the defile, the French regulars fell back with a stolid tread behind them. One French battalion did lose some of its cohesion due to losses from the Allied cannon fire, but it retained its formation and so became the tail end of the French fighting withdrawal. The musketry fire between the steadily retiring French regulars and closing Allied infantry was largely desultory, the main fighting occurring upon the tree-lined hills. On the French left, their light troops and cavalry were hard-pressed by the Allied light infantry and their supporting cavalry. The French light bobs put up a stiff resistance, but after their initial position, a breastwork of felled and fallen trees, was bayonet charged and overrun by a Hanoverian battalion, and were tumbled back. The combat continued, with further sharp contests through the trees, but the French lights and their cavalry supports were now constantly on the back foot. The Allied push down this side of the defile was becoming a very real threat to those with the baggage train, the crack and pop of musketry rattling among the trees marking the progress of the enemy, and hastening the efforts of the baggage train to get away before they might be fallen upon. 3 French line battalions accompanied the supply wagons, and these secured the far end of the defile as the baggage train continued on its way. The French cavalry and light infantry defending the hills to the right of the French column were also behind a hastily thrown up breastwork, but were left largely unmolested for some time while their comrades were fighting for their lives on the other side of the defile. The Allied Jaegers and their fellow light troops had ensconced themselves in a village below the breastwork, and taking cover among the buildings and enclosures, there they resolutely remained for some time. They did engage in musketry with the French behind the breastwork, while a few cannon on each side attempted to blast aside the defences of the other, but they would not advance, much to the frustration of their commander. Hanoverian and British grenadiers came up behind the village, and with their encouragement the French light infantry charged forward with cavalry supporting their left. A desperate melee was fought over the French barricades. The cannon placed there were overrun. The Allies were then thrown back only to bravely attack the position again, and this time succeed. Although badly cut up on both flanks, particularly among their troops defending the hills on the left, the French had done enough to see their baggage safely away, just as the Allied cavalry threatened to close in, although the 3 covering battalions remained to be contested with as their comrades from the Aquitaine and Auvergne brigades fell back to join them. A final and telling riposte from the French was St Germain's ordering of an opportune charge by a regiment of hussars upon the flank of the Brunswick line battalion. The latter, leading the Allied advance into the defile after the French regulars, was mercilessly cut to pieces, and so the French fighting withdrawal ended. This last French cavalry charge halting the main Allied advance up the defile for long enough to allow the French to escape.